Hello again, students. I'm going to talk a little bit. This is the last one that I'm going to talk about. The last characteristic of culture is culture is integrated. And just like the last one, culture is adaptive, is one of those that is confused by students in discussion boards often. Um, Culture is adaptive is usually confused with acculturation. The idea that we can all adapt when we go to another culture. Yeah, and that's not what it means. We studied it before. Culture is adaptive, meaning that we as a single culture adapt to our environmental constraints. Yeah. Culture is integrated, on the other hand, is confused usually with the idea of globalization. The idea that all cultures in the world somehow are integrated in the sense that we all use cell phones, we all use media, we all post things on TikTok, those ideas. But that's not what it means, yeah. Um, what it means is that within a single culture, within American culture, for example, we all have beliefs and practices, and all of our beliefs and practices form a relatively coherent and consistent system. Yeah. One aspect of culture reflects another aspect of culture. All aspects of our culture fit together into a pattern that forms the totality, the holistic aspect of our culture. An example of that I put in the PowerPoint is the idea of pyramid construction. Um, it is not by chance that we see pyramids or large structures constructed in societies or in cultures where there's a large number of people. The social organization is complex, yeah, and we have something of what we call a state level society, yeah. And it's because that amount of complexity and diversification of what people do is required in order to create something as big and as difficult to build as a pyramid. Yeah. When you see another type of society, a tribal society, those societies are more simple. They usually practice either hunting or gathering or horticulture, something that requires not a lot of people, um, um, and a very simple division of labor. Yeah, a division of labor that does not require a lot of people to be involved in. With that, what we have then is societies that don't have the population level, the diversification of what people do in order to create something as complex as a pyramid. Yeah. So you can see that within a culture, the amount of people that exists in a group, uh, the division of labor and how people specialize in particular roles within the group, all of that determines um, 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 what that group is able to do. Yeah? And so that's an example of culture is integrated. Another example that your book uses is the idea of women in the American workforce, the idea of gender roles and how gender roles have changed through time. But in every moment in time, gender roles fulfill the expectation or the need for what the rest of the practices and beliefs of culture needed it to be at the time. Yeah. So at a time when, for instance, there was a deep division of labor and women really were in the domestic realm, having children, taking care of homes, and men were outside, going to universities, getting degrees, working, having careers. Gender roles were very divided. Yeah. As things changed, and the book will take you through the history of women in the workforce and how things changed according to wars. During the first and second World War, where men went to war, women were left at home. There was need for women to work in factories, even in universities. In the Second World War, there was a lot of women working in universities because there was a lot of technology being developed in universities to fight the war. Um, so you saw that then that the gender role of women and the practices, the beliefs that we had about what it was to be a woman, started to change. Yeah. The idea of women who worked outside the home started to become more mainstream and accepted. Yeah. And then even things like what women wore, the clothes that women wore changed. Women were more prone to wear pants, not just skirts or dresses because their work required them to, and then it was started to be seen as something acceptable and expected. Um, so you can see how you can see how in a society, whatever is happening that affects social norms will start to cause an effect on the practices, on the beliefs, on the technologies being built. Another example of that, for instance, is Legos were thought about, toys. If you think about toys were very divided in terms of gender roles, and Legos really created something new that was meant for anybody to create. Yeah. But then to build, it was supposed to be, just outside of gender. um, and then Lego realized that it would make a lot of money if it started to create gender toys as well. Yeah. Toys for girls who then exemplify their toys, really indexed the toys for girls, really indexed colors for girls, pink, you horses, homes inside the home. They realized that girls like to play with inside the home. Yeah. And boys like to play with outside the home. Scenarios outside the home. Yeah. And so that's an interesting thing of how even toys, material culture, what we call material culture, is part of this integration of culture, where material culture really represents what the expectations that we have, with gender roles or anything else. Um, so another example of that, and the book talks about that too, is the idea of the role of not just women but men. Nowadays with parenthood, the role of men has changed enormously. Yeah, it used to be that 100 years ago, fatherhood really meant that a man would go outside the house, make money, and then come back home and be able to buy things and put food on the table. Yeah, nowadays the role of fatherhood has taken more of a domestic, it has gone into the domestic realm. Yeah, where fathers are expected to take care of babies too, to feed babies. Fathers are now able to take time off from work, to be at home with the mother, with the baby. So that wasn't something that even occurred before. It wasn't something. It wasn't a possibility. Um, so those are all examples of that idea that culture is integrated.